Shavua Tov, everyone. Welcome to video number 36 in our WhatsApp story group. I adapted it from the versions in L'Chaim Weekly and Torah Facts. I mailed it to my story list 11 years ago, and I titled it From Moses to Moses. This Sunday night, Monday, is the 20th of the Jewish month of Tevet, is the yortzeit of the RaMBaM, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. Maimonides is sometimes called. He was born in 1134 in Cordoba, Spain, and shortly after he was bar mitzvahed, the Almohades Muslims, an extremist group of fanatics, conquered Cordoba, and these ruthless extremists had no tolerance for other religions, and the Jews soon found them in a situation of convert or flee. For 10 years, the family wandered from place to place until finally they settled in Morocco in Fez. But 5 years later, they were forced to leave and decided to go to Israel. But Israel turned out to be a very dangerous place for Jews at that time. It was during the years of the Crusaders. So they were endangered from both Christians and Muslims. And in 1165, when the RaMBaM was 30 years old, he was born in 1135, not 34, so they moved to Cairo, Egypt. And there he was appointed to the staff of Saladin, the ruler, and in the role of royal physician. This, in addition to his numerous roles in the Jewish community as rabbi, as chief rabbi and teacher. It was there in this Egyptian period that he wrote all of his masterworks. His commentary on the Mishnah, his Mishnah Torah, Yad HaZakah, as it's sometimes called, the mighty hand, where he enumerates each of the mitzvot and explains it, and it's one of the most important early compilations of Jewish law. He also separately published a book of the 613 mitzvot, listing the 613 mitzvot. He formulated Ani Ma'amin, the 13 basic principles of Jewish faith, and he wrote Moreh Nevukim, translated as Guide to the Perplexed, which became very popular in both the Jewish and non-Jewish world, and has been translated into many languages. Nor was he esteemed only in the Jewish world. He was famous throughout the non-Jewish civilization also as a philosopher and a scientist and an important medical resource. He wrote numerous medical textbooks, which were really the primary medical books for several hundred years in both the Christian and Muslim worlds. When he felt his end coming, he instructed his family to bury him in the Holy Land. He passed away in the year 1204. Many hundreds of people attended the funeral, and after the ceremonies were completed, so the coffin was placed on a sturdy camel, and they set off in the direction of the Holy Land, due north, and hundreds of the people that had been at the funeral accompanied the procession. When they reached Eretz Israel, when they crossed the border, so they remembered that the RaMBaM had not specified exactly where in the Holy Land he wished to be buried, and so they weren't sure what to do. That is, lots of people had ideas about where he should be buried, but there was no agreement. Jews. While they were still discussing it, they were attacked by an armed group of Bedouins. All the Jews panicked and scattered, and And the Muslims were very excited because they saw this huge box on the camel and they figured it was full of treasure. So they tried to take the camel away, and they weren't able to budge the camel, no matter how many of them were pulling on the reins. So they tried to take the box off the camel, the coffin off the camel, what they thought was the treasure box, and they weren't able to move that either. So finally they decided, okay, they'll open it up and take out the treasure. But when they opened it up, they saw the remains of a human body in perfect condition. And then they became very terrified that they realized that this must be the bones of a holy person, the remains of a holy person, given this great procession and the miracle with the camel and the box. And so they themselves, they asked forgiveness and they ran off. The Jews gathered themselves together to set out in the procession. They still weren't sure where to go. And all of a sudden, the camel rose on its feet. It had been crouching and started walking off. The leader of the procession quickly realized what was going on, or he thought he knew what was going on, and he cautioned everybody not to interfere with the camel at all, just to follow. So the procession proceeded north up through Israel, and they reached as far as the city of Tiberias, on the shore of the Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee, and the camel continued through the narrow streets, and then at one point it just stopped and knelt on the ground. And the people understood that this was the place where they should bury the RaMBaM, and so they did. Over the years, a shelter was erected over the burial place, and subsequently there was a park erected nearby. And today it's a very magnificent structure with a beautiful entrance with steps paralleling the 14 books of the Mishnah Torah, and it's attended. The place is attended by hundreds of people, and on the yard side, several thousands of people. Chabad arranges a siyum, a completion of the Rambam's masterwork, the whole 14 books, which they do which they finish each year. Although not necessarily on the yard site, and very prominently displayed there in huge letters on a huge white banner, the words Moshe LaMoshe Ein Kamo Moshe. From Moses to Moses, there is none like Moses. From Moses, who received the Torah at Har Sinai from God, till Moses, the son of Maimon, who compiled the law, there is none like Moses.